Ever noticed how some people seem to control a room without saying much at all, while others talk for hours and still can't get anyone to listen? A person walks in, says almost nothing, and somehow ends up running the conversation. That's not charisma, that's psychology. And in this video, we're going deep into the dark side of influence, the hidden mental patterns psychologist Robert Cialdini spent decades decoding. Patterns that the most manipulative people in history have used to control minds without ever raising their voice. And once you understand them, you'll never be an easy target again. So stick around to the end, because the last principle is the one almost nobody realizes is being used on. It starts with something called priming, which means planting an idea in someone's mind before you ever make your real move, so that everything after it gets judged against that first anchor. Psychologists have shown that if you casually mention an extreme, exaggerated number or idea first, whatever follows suddenly feels small and acceptable by comparison, even if it wouldn't have on its own. This is why in one study, restaurants and shops that used bigger, more extreme reference points saw people accept things they normally wouldn't. And why something as simple as background music in a store can quietly shift what people choose without them ever realizing their environment made the decision for them. Because the brain doesn't experience the world raw. It experiences the world through whatever frame gets planted first. Then there's trust. And true manipulators never ask for trust directly. They engineer it. There's a chilling real technique used by some of the most effective con artists in history, where instead of pitching anything, they first get you to hand over something small but symbolically important, like access to your space, your time, or a personal item. Because the human brain runs on a simple, exploitable rule. Whoever we hand something valuable to, we automatically start believing is safe. So by the time the real request comes, the target's guard is already down, and they don't even remember when they started trusting this stranger. The mind also finds whatever it's told to look for, which is called confirmation bias, and it's one of the most dangerous levers a manipulator has. In one unsettling demonstration, a person was simply told, "You're a very stubborn person," and their mind instantly dug up old memories to prove it true. Then minutes later, the same person was told the opposite. "You're actually very flexible." And their brain found evidence for that just as easily. Meaning the same mind can be steered to prove almost anything, depending only on what it's told to search for first. This is exact. We also like to think we can stay alert to everything around us, but the brain actually switches rapidly between one focus and another. And in that split-second switch, there's a brief blind spot where attention nearly disappears, called the attentional blink. And this is precisely the window skilled manipulators wait for, lowering their voice instead of raising it, forcing you to lean in and focus completely. Because whatever takes effort to receive, the mind marks as important and lowers its defenses around. Which is why the quietest, calmest person in a tense room often ends up with more control than the loudest one. Whatever is most visible also tends to get blamed or believed the most, and there's a real disturbing case that proves it. Peter Riley, a teenager wrongly accused of murdering his own mother, who, after 16 hours of relentless, isolating interrogation, began doubting his own memory and confessed to a crime he never committed, only for DNA evidence 2 years later to prove he wasn't even there that night. The interrogation footage had the camera angled only on his face, so anyone who watched it instinctively read him as guilty, because the brain assumes whatever is most visible in a scene must be the cause. This is a tactic used deliberately in real interrogation rooms to isolate and break a person's sense of reality. And if you're ever placed in a situation where all the attention is intentionally centered on you alone, physically repositioning yourself so the visibility is shared can break that psychological grip. Unfinished things also grip the mind far more tightly than finished ones, a pattern discovered when a waiter in the 1920s became known for remembering 10 to 15 complex orders without writing anything down, yet forgot each one the
instant it was served. Psychologist Bluma Zygarnik studied this and found our brains cling to open loops and release closed ones almost instantly. And manipulators exploit this constantly, deliberately leaving a conversation, a promise, or an emotional situation unresolved because an unfinished loop keeps someone's mind circling back to them obsessively, unable to let go long after the interaction has ended. Words themselves are also weaponized because language doesn't just describe reality, it reshapes how a mind experiences it. Call the same act a crime and people demand punishment. Call it a sickness and people demand treatment. And the shift in a single word can flip an entire crowd's judgment without a single new fact being introduced. Controlling people rarely bother changing what's true. They simply change the words used to describe it, and the emotional reaction follows automatically. Two more dark levers are worth knowing. The halo effect, where one striking trait like confidence,
where we lower our guard for anyone who feels similar to us. Social proof, where we follow the crowd, even against our own judgment. Authority, where we rarely question anyone who appears to have power or expertise. Scarcity, where the fear of losing something overrides rational thinking entirely. Consistency, where a small early yes is used to trap someone into a much bigger one. And unity, the most dangerous lever of all, where a manipulator convinces someone, you're not just like me, you're one of us. Because shared identity creates a loyalty that overrides logic, evidence, and even self preservation. Knowing these patterns isn't about becoming a manipulator yourself, it's about recognition. Once you can see these levers being pulled, no one can quietly control your mind without your permission again. So, if this opened your eyes, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.